Language is a common communication link between us all. There are over 350 languages spoken in the UK alone. We all know how important communication is, but how barriers come up when two people do not share the same language. Imagine you lived in Finland. You might know enough Finnish to get by socially, but what if an emergency occurred, such as a road traffic accident, or you needed to get to the dentist or go to hospital? How would you get by? How well do you think you would be able to communicate? You would need a professional interpreter to assist you, so you could speak in the language you're most comfortable with. The role of the interpreter is to convey the meaning of the spoken message from one language to another, so that people who do not speak the same language can communicate. It is essential you use a professional interpreter for accurate and impartial interpreting. Interpreters transfer ideas and concepts across language and culture without changing the message in any way, without summarizing, adding or omitting anything. In this film we'll look at good and bad practice examples of using a professional interpreter, so that people offering a service in an official capacity can offer the correct good practice guidance. In each module we'll see some common mistakes that may occur, followed by some good practice examples. To ensure you get the best out of an interpreter, you should follow the guidance on good practice. Before we recap on good practice, let's look again at some examples of bad practice.
Excuse me, I can hear the patient speaking, but he does not speak Latvian, and I do not understand his language.
Oh, sorry. I'm sure he said Latvian. I must have got it wrong.
I translate Rima today.
Please take a seat. Okay, what is the problem with the house? Have you contacted your landlord?
Water in house? No, water going. Rima say problem. Amir say helping. Water problem, house problem. Rima not happy. You help Rima, Rima happy.
Okay, so if there's water, do you think there might be a leak?
Oh, no. Oh, we do not eat leek, we eat onion.
In this clip, the male official does not understand the role of the interpreter, or the importance of using a professional rather than simply a friend who claims to speak the language. The official directs all his conversation and eye contact at Amir, as if he were Rima's advocate.
Can you tell Camille I'm here to ask him a few questions about the road traffic collision?
Przyszedłem tutaj zadać Ci kilka pytań na temat wypadku drogowego.
Co on zapisuje? Czy myślisz, że wypadek był z mojej winy? Powiedz mu, że nie zrobiłem nic złego.
What is he writing down? Does he think I am to blame for the accident? This wasn't my fault. Please, can you tell him that?
Nie tłumacz tego, co do ciebie mówię. Nie mówię do niego. Mówię do ciebie.
Don't interpret what I'm saying. I'm not talking to him, I'm talking to you.
It is important to use the correct body language. Keep eye contact with the client and direct conversation to the client and not to the interpreter. In this clip, the client has not been briefed on the appointment, so does not realise that the person with the official is an interpreter who is there in an official capacity. The client relates to the interpreter as if this is someone who can speak on their behalf because they share the same language. The officer's body language and attitude here is rather negative and puts unfair and unnecessary pressure on the interpreter. The officer is not aware of the distress he is creating for both the client and the interpreter.
Can Camille confirm his name?
Czy możesz potwierdzić, jak się nazywasz?
Tak.
Yes.
What is his full name?
Jakie jest Twoje imię i nazwisko?
Kamil Badowski.
Kamil Badowski.
Pracujesz w szpitalu?
Do you work at the hospital?
No, I do not work at the hospital. I'm a police officer.
In this clip, the officer treats the interpreter as a representative of the client and directs all his questions at her. Again, the officer's attitude puts unfair and unnecessary pressure on the interpreter and makes the client anxious about the whole situation. By talking directly to the interpreter, the officer is marginalising the client. An interpreter should never be asked to keep a client occupied while the official makes notes. In these circumstances, the assignment will fail.
Yeah, well, I need to take a few notes, so it's okay if you want to talk for a while.
Muszę teraz zanotować parę rzeczy, więc nie mam nic przeciwko, jeżeli chcecie porozmawiać.
Dlaczego ten policjant tu jest? Nie zrobiłem nic złego. Możesz mu wytłumaczyć, że to nie z mojej winy? Nie zrobiłem nic złego. Dlaczego on tu jest?
Why is the policeman here? I haven't done anything wrong. Can you explain to him this wasn't my fault? I haven't done anything wrong.
Here, the police officer shifts all the responsibility onto the interpreter, telling her that she can speak to the client whilst he makes notes. This puts unfair pressure on the interpreter, as her role is only to interpret what the parties say to each other.
ये क्या कह रहे हैं आमिर? आपने मुझसे तो अभी तक कुछ पूछा ही नहीं।
ये गाने की बात कर रहा है। मैंने इनसे कहा कि घर में सीलन है, पता नहीं कि मदद क्यों नहीं कर रहा।
इन्होंने मकान मालिक के बारे में तो नहीं पूछा?
पता नहीं, लगता है वो मदद नहीं करेगा।
In this case, the official is left bewildered and loses control of the situation. A professional interpreter would have interpreted everything for the sake of transparency.
Tak, ja prowadziłem. Dlaczego mnie to wypytuje? To nie było z mojej winy.
Yes, I was driving. Why is he asking me
To
all
nie
this?
było z mojej winy.
It wasn't my fault.
Co on zapisuje i dlaczego?
What is he writing and why?
Can you ask Camille what the other vehicle was like?
In this example, the officer ignores the client and the interpreter while he makes notes. The interpreter is doing her job well. She is interpreting everything the client and the officer are saying. However, because the officer does not understand her role, he's ignoring her. This puts unfair and unnecessary pressure on the interpreter.
This wasn't my fault. Please, can you tell him that?
Nie tłumacz tego, co do ciebie mówię. Nie mówię do niego. Mówię do ciebie.
Don't interpret what I'm saying. I'm not talking to him, I'm talking to you. Kamil, nie wolno ci teraz ze mną rozmawiać. Ja tutaj tylko tłumaczę.
Because the client hasn't been briefed on the role of an interpreter, he asks her for advice on what he should tell the officer. The officer appears to be unaware of the role of an interpreter and effectively hands over control of the conversation to the interpreter. An interpreter will only interpret what has been said. An official should be aware that an interpreter will not advise either a client or an official.
Can you tell Camille I'm here to ask him a few questions about the road traffic collision?
Przyszedłem tutaj zadać ci kilka pytań na temat wypadku drogowego.
Co on zapisuje? Czy myślisz, że wypadek był z mojej winy? Powiedz mu, że nie zrobiłem nic złego.
What is he writing down? Does he think I am to blame for the accident? This wasn't my fault. Please, can you tell him that?
Can you ask Camille if he was the driver of the vehicle at the time of the accident, and tell me about the other vehicle, what the weather was like, and what the visibility was like, please?
Jaka była widoczność na drodze? Jaka była pogoda? I czy to ty prowadziłeś?
As the official, you need to take responsibility and full control of your communication via an interpreter. Speaking for too long or speaking over the interpreter can cause inaccurate interpreting, as parts of the conversation can be missed. When an interpreter is interpreting consecutively, the official's speech should be limited to 2 sentences. To ensure you communicate effectively and efficiently through an interpreter, you should use this good practice guidance.
Do you speak English?
No, det troszkę.
I want to help you, but first I need to find out which language you speak. Please, can you see if your language is here? Lithuanian, okay. Do you understand the interpreter?
Ar jūs suprantat vertėją?
Taip, aš ją suprantu.
Yes, I understand her.
Do you speak the same language?
Ar jūs kalbate tą pačią kalbą?
Taip, mes kalbam tą pačią kalbą.
Yes, we do.
Do you understand the interpreter?
क्या आप तर्जुमा करने वाले को समझती हैं?
जी हाँ.
Yes, I do.
Do you share the same language?
क्या आप दोनों एक ही ज़बान बोलते हैं?
जी हाँ.
Yes, we do.
Identify the language before booking an interpreter. Use a language identification chart if necessary. If the language is correctly identified, you'll be sure of booking the correct interpreter. This saves time and money. Always check that the client and the interpreter share the same language. Many languages have different dialects. It is your responsibility to ensure that the interpreter and the client fully understand each other.
I am a registered public service interpreter. Security cleared, qualified and experienced. I have signed the Professional Code of Conduct. I'm a registered public service interpreter, security cleared, qualified and experienced. I have signed the Professional Code of Conduct.
It is essential you use a professional interpreter. A professional interpreter will be qualified, experienced and security vetted, and will have signed a professional code of conduct.
Hello, I'm Dr. Brown. Are you my Polish interpreter?
Hello, yes, I am. That's my ID.
Nice to meet you.
When you meet the interpreter, it is important that you ask to see his or her ID badge to make sure this is the interpreter you've booked and not someone else.
PC Roland has asked my permission if he can ask Camille a few questions about the accident, just to check a few details about it. I need to check that Camille is well enough before I can allow PC Roland to go ahead. Any questions at all?
Can I just check I have the correct terminology? A head injury, a possible neck fracture and a concussion. Is there anything else?
No, that's what we've diagnosed so far.
Good interpreting comes from good preparation. You must brief your interpreter on the nature of the assignment, the subject of any discussion that will take place, and any specialised terminology that you're likely to use. In some cases, it's necessary to prepare the interpreter emotionally for the assignment.
I need to ask you a few questions about the collision, but before I do that, I'd just like to explain the way in which we talk using an interpreter.
Muszę zadać Ci parę pytań na temat wypadku drogowego, ale zanim to zrobimy, chcę wytłumaczyć Ci, jak będziemy rozmawiać z pomocą tłumacza.
As an official, it is your responsibility to ensure that all parties understand the role of an interpreter and the ground rules for effective communication through an interpreter. The interpreter is there purely to help you overcome a language barrier.
Tell me everything you can about the other vehicle.
Powiedz mi cokolwiek pamiętasz o tym drugim samochodzie.
Wydaje mi się, że był czerwony.
I think it was red.
And what was the weather like?
Jaka była pogoda?
Było sucho.
It was dry.
As the official, you must take immediate and complete control of the situation to ensure effective communication. If you brief both the client and the interpreter correctly and observe the right protocols, you'll ensure 3 outcomes: fair treatment for the client, professional respect for the interpreter, and a satisfactory outcome for all parties.